am Marcella Twomley. I'm the current chair of SNAC. And Ben is here. He's the co-chair and the communications coordinator. So we're here tonight. This is Ben's, Ben Alston's also here. She's our ECAC work group leader. So if you have any questions for us, we'd love to chat. But we are recording this tonight, and this is our mock IEP. This is Ben's brainchild, because we want to give people the experience of kind of sitting and seeing what it would be like to go through an IEP meeting. This is all fictitious. This is the training, ECATS functionality. So everything that we're doing here is all totally made up. This is a fictitious situation. But it will give you an idea kind of what it's like to sit at the table and sit around the table together and discuss an IEP. So I am going to let everybody introduce themselves and their actual roles, because these are wonderful professionals that work for our schools, but they are also, serving a different role here. And we have a special parent advocate as well. So we can't wait to hear your questions when we're done, and I'm going to hand it over.
Sure. So I'll start. Again, as Marcella said, I'm Ben Alschuler. I'm a co-chair of SNAC, and today I'll be serving in the role of parent. So hopefully I'll be voicing the concerns that some of you all would have as parents in an IEP or a 504 meeting. And joining me is Johanna, who will introduce herself, but probably brings me to my first point, which is you can bring people who are meaningful to the IEP process with you as a parent. That's something that you have as a right. So that's Johanna's role.
Hi, so I'm Johanna Lynch. I work for DPI. I'm not here representing DPI this evening. I am the IDEA parent liaison for the Office of Exceptional Children. In my previous life, I worked for a nonprofit agency that supported parents who had children who were deaf or hard of hearing. And I was a parent educator / IEP mentor in that role. And I went to many, many meetings with parents across the eastern part of the state. So I'm here just kind of to pretend like I'm being Ben's mentor and sitting here with him and helping him collaborate with the IEP team.
I'm Jordi Roman, principal of Hill-Carrboro Elementary School. I always asked to come and just be the LEA.
Can you explain what an LEA is?
I was about to get there.
Great.
So that was the introduction.
Yes.
So yeah, the LEA is basically every principal or assistant principal is considered the LEA, or the person in charge, right? The LEA roles means it's basically the leader in that, and ultimately makes the ultimate decision based on data and students' best needs. So that's the role, and so you'll see it play out here. Anything else?
No, that's great. Thank you. Cool.
And can I add what LEA stands for?
Yes, please.
Local Education.
Local education agency.
Thank you, agency. So
Sorry,
representing.
I mixed up.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Representing the school.
Yes.
Okay. District.
I'm Courtney Sears. I am an EC resource teacher at Ephesus Elementary School. And prior to that, I was a general education teacher. And here I'm serving as a general education teacher with Amy, and I'm going to be the general education teacher who teaches reading and writing to the student. I am Amy Rivas Plata. I work at Phillips Middle School. I am also an EC resource teacher. I work mainly with 8th graders, so transitioning to high school. And I used to teach here as well. And then I also used to teach elementary school, so wow. Everything is very familiar. All the vibes are coming back. So for this opportunity, I will be one of the gen ed teachers. I will be the math teacher together with Courtney.
And I am Melissa Berry. I am currently an EC teacher at Sewell Elementary School. In my career, I have also taught at all levels, elementary, middle, and high, including resource, general education, and adapted curriculum.
And you'll be driving
I am driving. So I am the EC teacher, and I will be serving, and I'm about to introduce to you everyone and their roles.
Great.
Good?
Yeah, and do you want to tell people what this is that they're seeing?
I sure will. I'm gonna
you'll
step
do
us
it.
through.
Okay. So to set everyone up, basically we have a fictional child that we're talking about. It's going to be my child in this case. So we're calling him Jordan Mock. We could start maybe by reading a little bit about Jordan. Would that be a good way to start?
That's fine.
Okay.
So, and just so you understand where we are in terms of the process, we're playing like a little catch up right now. So we have already had an initial referral meeting, which means that either the parent or a teacher had concerns about Jordan's level of functioning in school and ability to access the curriculum. And so as a team, we have already met with the school psychologist, with the speech therapist, with our testing and assessment team. We've been through an initial referral meeting where the team presented their concerns. We moved through the process and decided to do evaluations. And so based on the evaluations, we then reconvened and went through what is called a results and eligibility meeting. And at that results and eligibility meeting, we met just yesterday and determined that Jordan Mock is eligible for special education services under the disability category of learning disability. So after we had that meeting, we are now reconvening to write the very first IEP. So we're going to give you a little bit of the backstory so you understand where we were, but this is not our first time gathered together around this table. And in real life, we would truly be gathered around the table. The thing that one of the things that we first talked about as teachers is we don't like the way this table is set up because the parent is so far away and we're segregated, right? There's the parents on one side of the table and the school staff on the other. And it's very important that we are considered an IEP team. We are all on Team Jordan Mock. So our number one goal for all of us is Jordan's success. And so when you come into a meeting, it can be intimidating. I'm also a parent of a kid who has an IEP, preschool through 12th grade. It is really important that you feel as comfortable as you can be as a parent. I love the way Ben brought his person. My person that I used to bring until he passed was my dad. You bring your person to your meeting and make sure you are as comfortable as you possibly can, because it can be intimidating being around a big table. So know that you can bring your person and that's okay.
And that the table will be round.
At the table.
And I just want to add, it's really nice to bring another person with you too, so they can take notes while you're participating, because there's a lot of information being shared. So it's easy to forget what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe we just start with maybe the first 5 paragraphs, and then we'll spare everyone the details of what's going on. Does that make sense?
Sure. Okay. As Jordan's general education teacher, I've had the opportunity to observe many of his strengths and challenges in our classroom this year. Jordan is bright, curious, and creative elementary student who brings enthusiasm to class discussions, especially when topics connect to science experiments, hands-on activities, or storytelling. He has strong verbal reasoning skills and often contributes thoughtful insights during group conversations. When material is presented orally or through interactive lessons, Jordan demonstrates clear conceptual understanding and can explain ideas in meaningful ways. At the same time, Jordan has been diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia, and he also presents with speech and language deficits that require specialized supports outside of the general education classroom. These needs significantly affect how he navigates academic tasks and classroom expectations. The most consistent area of difficulty is sustaining attention, particularly during independent tasks. During whole group instruction, he often begins focus but becomes distracted by small noises, movements in the room, or his own internal thoughts. During independent reading and writing periods, he may spend extended time looking around the room, reorganizing materials, or engaging in off-task behaviors rather than beginning his assignment. He requires frequent redirection to re-engage and benefits from proximity, visual cues, and check-ins. Jordan's dyslexia presents most clearly in reading fluency, decoding unfamiliar words, and written expression. He works diligently to read grade-level text, but the effort required is substantial. Because decoding demands so much cognitive energy, his comprehension may break down over longer passages. In writing tasks, his ideas are thoughtful and creative, Yet spelling errors, phonetic approximations, and difficulty organizing sentences make his written work appear below his true level of understanding. He often resists longer written assignments, particularly when fatigued. In addition to reading and writing challenges, Jordan demonstrates expressive and receptive language weaknesses. He sometimes has difficulty formulating complete, grammatically organized sentences when speaking, especially when asked to explain multi-step reasoning or retell events in sequence. His word retrieval can be inconsistent. He may pause mid-sentence, use vague language such as that thing or stuff, and abandon a thought when he cannot access the precise vocabulary he needs. Receptively, he may misinterpret complex questions or struggle with academic vocabulary, particularly during content area instruction.
That's great.
Okay.
So, Ben, welcome to your first IEP meeting. We are so glad you're here. We're going to be projecting the information up on the screen. Remember, our system is called ECATS. It's looking a little familiar to you because our referral paperwork and our eligibility paperwork was also on this system. Before we get started today, I just want to reintroduce you to some of the people at the table and let you know the roles that they will be doing during this meeting. In the back, can you hear me? Perfect. Okay. So we have today our school principal, Mr. Jordy, and his job today, in addition to serving as the LEA, which stands for Local Education Agency, his job is to make sure that all of the decisions that we make today are programmatically possible. So for instance, we know that Jordan loves to swim, right? Jordy's job is to make sure that even though he loves to swim and we say he might perform better if he was in the water during tasks, it would be Mr. Jordy who would say, that is not programmatically possible. As much as your kid would love it, we can't swim every day in the school. So that's his job. He is also going to be taking our meeting minutes. So you will see him on his computer and taking notes throughout the course of this meeting. In reality, because technology systems, I've mocked up minutes and I'll show them to everyone at the end of the meeting. And I'll also show you some other things that I've mocked up from you. We have, as you know, Ben, our general education teachers, so reading and writing teachers, Miss Courtney and Miss Amy, it's math teacher, and they are, again, part of our team. As we move through the process, I will be doing my best to explain everything to you as a first-time user. I want you to know that this is your meeting, okay? At any point, don't hesitate to stop and ask a question if you don't know what's going on. Some of the pieces will be familiar, and again, I'm going to reference to you things that we've already gone over through the eligibility process so that they are familiar, but don't hesitate to stop and ask, okay? Do you have any questions before we?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, we're going to kick right off. And so what you can see is that this is an initial IEP. IEPs are good for one annual year. So this IEP will go into effect officially tomorrow, and it will last for 364 days, okay? Every IEP team meets officially at least once a year, but we can meet more than that. So any member of the team at any point can call for an IEP team meeting, and we'll be happy to convene and get together and talk about it.
And that includes me as a
That
parent.
includes you as a parent,
Right.
absolutely. And as Jordan gets older, if Jordan still has an IEP, that also includes Jordan.
Excellent.
Okay.
Wait, what age would he have to be able to attend?
Oh, so actually, initial IEPs are generally done without the student in elementary school, but Jordan is a fifth grade.
Yep.
Jordan will be involved starting in middle school.
Okay.
So we can anticipate in the sixth grade that Jordan will become an active member of the IEP team. The way that looks in sixth grade is sometimes they only come to the beginning part. I'll show you like the student profile. But we want Jordan to be a good self-advocate. We want Jordan to be aware of his strengths and his needs and what he needs to be successful in school. By the time if Jordan still has an IEP, by the time Jordan is in eighth grade and going to high school, We will expect Jordan to participate in his entire IEP meeting. That's called a transition meeting when he gets ready to press school.
Right.
But yes, and if Jordan is feeling comfortable participating at any point during the year other than the initial and where he's doing what I'm hashing out, Jordan is absolutely welcome to that. We've had kids as young as first grade. We sometimes give some input. Sometimes that's in the form of like a video or a picture or a description of what it is that they like about school or how they can be successful.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. So we are going to review some of Jordan's strengths. I know that we did a lot of this yesterday. We've seen a lot of this from our results and eligibility meeting. A thing that I want you to think of as a parent is what I like about the overall strengths section is this is the point in the IEP that we get teachers to fall in love with your kid, okay? Jordan is a 5th grader. We will meet again before the end of the year to have a transition meeting to middle school. What I want you to think about is I'm going to read these student strengths. I want you to think about some things that might not be presented in here that we know that Jordan loves outside of school. So I know like Jordan has a passion for swimming. We're going to want to add that in. And anything else that you as a parent, we're looking for connection points. So his current 5th grade team knows him really well, but think about, does he like love Pokemon Go? Is he really into anime? Is Minecraft his thing? Any little connection point that we can get a teacher to make a connection and build a relationship, and that might be a source for inspiring some learning, we want to add it. So we know that Jordan is a bright, curious, and creative elementary student who brings enthusiasm to class discussions, especially when topics connect to science experiments, hands-on activities, or storytelling. He has strong verbal reasoning skills and often contributes thoughtful insights during group conversations. When material is presented orally or through interactive lessons, Jordan demonstrates clear conceptual understanding and can explain ideas in meaningful ways. So open to the team. What other strengths and passions does Jordan have?
So I'd say like something that wouldn't necessarily show up in school would be kind of like an engineering, like a knack for engineering, using hands-on activities, especially like, yes, some digital things too, like Minecraft, but also building things, can see complex sequences of events. So it shows kind of his intellect when he's building something. He knows that he needs to balance something here with extra weight in order to have something hanging over an edge on this side. So we can see at home that he has a lot of complex thinking, but we also are worried sometimes he can't express those things verbally, right? So we can see it, but we can't hear it necessarily. Other things, reading can be a challenge because of the dyslexia, but like graphic novels are always a big hit.
I've seen that in class too, that he really gravitates towards graphic novels, and that's also been a point of connection with peers. So he's able to talk about graphic novels with his friends and share ideas about them, and that's really great also.
I've seen that he has strong relationships with kids. Like he is a very friendly, very warm, heartwarming kid. Like he's such a nice person, a wonderful human being. Very honest. You know, even when he's not on task, he's like, yeah, I'm not on task. It's part of it. So it's okay.
And when I'm out on the playground, I notice that Jordan connects really well with his peers, and I can see that he can play just about any sport. I can see him playing soccer, or he'll try to play the Gaga kid, and he's just very versatile with any of those sports. Yeah.
Okay. And again, this, like, as parents, if there is one kind of complaint that I've had, both as a parent and as a teacher in receiving an IEP, if I only have like one line of information in the student's strengths, it doesn't give me a lot to go on. okay? If I, as a parent, only had one line, I'd be like, you don't know the kid. And as a teacher, like, again, this is your point, make me fall in love with your child, right? So give me what you got, and it is okay always to ask for more, particularly when you're showcasing your kids' strengths, okay? And as a parent, like sitting on that parent side, I know how emotional it is because the IEP is, you're only there because of the challenges, right? And so that can feel emotionally dry. Make sure your strengths are highlighted. If you want to make notes before going into the meeting, do that. If you want to email your teacher ahead of time, do that. Make sure your strengths are highlighted. Okay, parent concerns. We have that parents have expressed concerns about children's ability to read and his progress in school. Do you have any other concerns that you want to highlight in this way?
I just wanted to interject at this point.
Yeah.
So I forget what the last box is. After
The vision for high school, or vision for Lake County School.
So one suggestion that I like to make for parents is that these questions exist on every IEP meeting. So when you're redeveloping the meeting, the document the next year, or updating it through the course of the year, you're going to be asked those two questions. And so you can prepare that ahead of time and email it to your case manager so that you don't have to think of it in the moment during the meeting. And if you're thinking about what are your long-term goals what are the goals for your child, you can think for the coming year. And you can also think like, what do you want at the end of school for that or his school career? So.
And other than the initial IEP, which is what we're doing right now, you as a parent should always be getting a draft of the paperwork at least a few days in advance so you can go over it. And one of the things that I do when I give my parents a draft is I highlight places where I really want you to pay attention to. And just as you were saying, those two boxes are always my highlighted areas right off the bat. What concerns do you have that I may not have reflected? And what is your vision for the future? Because particularly as the kid gets older, that's what's driving the IEP. Is the entire vision for future should be driving what we're doing because we're trying to help you get to that life goal.
So,
And if I may, another thing that is very important is that when you receive the draft of the IEP, you can contact the case manager with any questions that you have. Because it's a draft and it's up for discussion, it's going to be a team decision, etc. But your case manager, what I usually do is after I send the IEP, we have a phone conversation, we chat about if there's anything in the strengths that I'm missing, anything in the concerns, anything on the vision that we can start developing together. Because at the end of the day, so also, we don't spend 24 hours discussing this in the meeting. So we have something already ready because what we want is for the student to be successful.
one more thing to I'm sorry.
No,
So I just want to, so that policy in Chapel Hill, Hill-Carrboro City Schools to provide the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not a requirement, just so you know. So if you move to another school district and you ask for a draft, you may get it, where the school may say no, and that's totally legal. So,
Yeah. That's true.
And then your vision for the future is that you would like Jordan to graduate high school and attend college.
Exactly. Yes.
It's all over
No.
Our next page is looking familiar to you, Ben. This is what I call our virtual file cabinet. So this is a record of all of the assessments that we have done to help better understand Jordan's strengths and needs. We have assessed in this IEP our reading, our written expression, our organizational and study skills, and our speech and language. Our present levels of performance, I am not going to read through at this moment because we just went through this yesterday in our eligibility meeting. So I know that this is familiar for you, that we went over the reading where he is, we went over his written expression, we went over his organizational and study as a performance, and also this speech and language skills. Okay? We understand that Jordan has a diagnosis of ADHD and dyslexia, and that disability is impacting him because he is needing structured classroom supports, explicit step-by-step instruction in the areas of decoding, encoding, organization, and expressive writing. and expressive language in order to access the general education and demonstrate understanding the curriculum. Okay. And again, to a parent question earlier this evening, the question was, what is the difference between a 504 and an IEP? The individual with an IEP requires specially designed instruction in order to access the curriculum. The individual with a 504 needs accommodations to access the curriculum. So both the IEP and the 504 have accommodations. The difference is that for the IEP, you need specially designed instruction that is taught by a special education teacher. Okay? The next page is a series of yes/no check boxes. And you can imagine, depending on your kid, that this may or may not apply. But it is important to understand that all of these things are factors into the kid's access to education. So, is the student an English language learner? Jordan is not. Does the student have any special communication needs? Jordan does. Jordan is going to receive speech as a related service, and so he has a speech-related goal. Does the student require assistive technology or devices or services? Jordan does not. Some of our kids do. And then this will be in different formats depending on what the kid needs in order to access the curriculum. Does Jordan have a documented visual impairment, including blindness? He does not. Do we have a documented hearing loss? He does not. If he is deaf or hard of hearing, have we considered the language and communication needs? Does Jordan have behaviors that impede his or her learning or that of others? He gets distracted in class, and this is being addressed through his organizational role. Does he require adaptive physical education? So again, that would be that we need physical education instruction delivered by a specialist, an adaptive physical specialist. Jordan does not. Is the IEP team considering instruction on the extended content standards? This is relevant if you have a kid who is in an adapted curriculum classroom. So for an adapted curriculum classroom, we look at extended content standards versus the core standards. Are there any additional parent concerns? At this point, we say no. And what do we know about Jordan? And again, we kind of highlighted some of the things that he brings to the table. Other things that might be checked in this box is if he has just transitioned to school from out of state, we might include that information here that helps us understand that he just came to us from Nebraska, or he has been educated in a school in China for the past 4 years, and this is his first time in an American school. So all of those things might impact him.
And I'll just say that sometimes in IEP meetings that I've been in, this is also a nice time to have discussions with parents about upcoming changes. So maybe if a family is moving or they're expecting a new baby and they want you to know that these kinds of things are like a student has a really close relationship with a grandparent who's in hospice, like all of those things might impact their student at school, and they want you to be aware of them, and that's a good time to have a conversation about how that might show up and how you might be able to support the child with that at school.
And what we have determined at yesterday's meeting is that Jordan is requiring specially designed instruction in reading, written expression, organizational study, and speech language. What questions do you have so far?
None so far, but there are specific concerns that I'm just curious about what those supports would be, so I'm sure we'll get to that. Yeah.
Absolutely, you'll need please. This portion of the IEP is called secondary transition. For an elementary student, it doesn't come into play yet. The reason why it's important, and it's important that you see it every time, it's going to come through on your IEP in ECATS every time, is as your kid gets older, particularly as your kid enters high school age, this becomes the most important part of the IEP because it drives everything else. And it is the vision of what is your child going to do after high school. Is your child looking to attend a 2-year college, a 4-year college? Are they looking to attend a vocational program? Are they looking to enter a supported work or living experience? So this, you're going to see not really highlighted at all in the elementary level, but this is its own little special thing that we can do next year, right? But it is really, it tells us, are we planning for the kid to get standard diploma? Are we planning for the kid to get an occupational course and study diploma? Or are we planning on the kid getting extended content STEM years that would be our adaptive curriculum students leading to a graduation certificate? And as the kid reaches 16, they are going to become more and more actively knowledge. Good. So we are going to take a look at our goals for reading. And so Jordan has a reading goal that when you give him a grade level oral reading fluency assessment, that he is going to maintain an average accuracy rate of 90% or higher and read at a rate of 87 words correct per minute or higher. So what we're looking for is increased accuracy and increed fluency. The more accurate he can read, the more fluently you can read. That is going to be his combination.
Yeah.
We are also looking at when he is given words with explicitly taught phonics patterns, that he is going to read those words with 90% accuracy or higher in 3 out of 4 operations. What questions do we have about those reading goals?
Just how far off are we currently?
So we are far enough off that we are going to be, and we'll get to that also when we get to the services, but Jordan is going to be receiving specially designed instruction in a small group EC setting, and he's going to be moving through, our district is using Spire as our reading program, and so he is going to be placed in a Spire reading group. It is systematic, multi-sensory, phonetic instruction. So we're going to be giving him the direct instruction that he needs, and his Spire teacher is going to be able to give you updates on how he is doing.
What happens if he cannot meet the rates that are set out as the goal?
So you will be getting a progress report every quarter. So at the same time that you get your child's report card, you're going to get a progress report written by me as a special education teacher. If we are finding that he is not progressing at a rate to meet his goal, we are going to reconvene as a team, and we are going to say, what changes do we need to make, either to instruction, to accommodations, or to renewal. Okay, so we're going to continue to have a dialogue.
Good. So, and your question was how far off are we? And so I would say that in the classroom, when I'm working with kids, I'm looking for a fluency rate somewhere between like 130 and 150 words correct per minute. So right now, Jordan's pretty far off. And what we've done is we've kind of looked at all of our fluency assessment and progress monitor data that I've seen, and I've worked with Ms. Berry, and we've kind of calculated based on the rate that he's improving at in a year's time, where would we expect him to be? And it doesn't mean that he's got to close that gap completely in a year, but we're going to make an ambitious goal to try and start to close that gap over time. Because if we can increase that fluency, we're going to increase that comprehension.
So yes.
I'm sorry, are going to be providing those parents?
Who provides this?
You said we are going to suggest for all to better semantic difference.
So when we get to the service delivery page, you will be able to see the services that will be provided by either special education teacher or a related service provider. And sorry.
You need to say that these are the services we are going to offer.
Yes.
This IEP would suggest.
Correct.
Oh, it's
Yes.
not like a big conversation. And these are what it is going to offer. Very well.
Okay.
Sounds.
Thank you for so as a team, the school team will be recommending a level of service,
But
right? And then we can have a conversation about that level of service. As a parent, you can also accept or reject that service. So that is something for you to be aware of also, is that the team can be offering a service and you could say, you know what? I actually don't want that service. So I'm going to say no to that. So that is also the right.
And it will be noted in the prior written notice that statement itself. That's why it's so important to review the prior written notice. So thank you for bringing that up. Because that has to be written clear. Your concern there. Yeah.
So for written expression, our goal is that Jordan will write an informative or explanatory multi-paragraph piece where each paragraph includes a clear topic sentence, at least 3 supporting details, and a concluding statement. And when given a writing topic, Jordan will independently generate 3 related subtopics for paragraphs on a graphical.
Good.
No, it sounds like a lot, but I'm sure we'll figure out.
And as Ms. Courtney stated, we work towards ambitious goals. Right? Organizational and study. Given supports, visual supports, task checklists, and teacher prompting, Jordan will independently organize materials and initiate and complete assigned tasks, such as gathering needed materials, following multi-step directions, and submitting completed work within the allotted time in 4 out of 5 opportunities. And given visual support, simplified language, and up to 1 repetition of directions, Jordan will accurately follow 3 to 4 step directions for both academic and classroom routines with no more than 1 additional prompt in 4 out of 5 opportunities.
And these are still goals that we're talking about. Okay,
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you're at home
Yeah.
and you ask Jordan to do something,
Yeah.
do you find that he, like if you give him a checklist or if you use visuals, does that help him?
It definitely helps, but it requires constant monitoring. So I would say, looking at this, yes, I mean, this would be amazing. But my personal experience at home is if I'm not staying on top of all of these organizational tasks in order to get out of the house or to complete our chores, it doesn't happen. And so I'm just curious to get to the piece where we'll talk about how exactly we're going to accomplish.
And if we find things that are, working, because we'll collaborate so that in Gen Ed we're doing things that are supporting him, that he's learning.
Yeah.
We can also share that with you because it's helpful for kids if we're using the same language and the same strategies. And so if you have something that really works, let us know, and vice versa.
I guess the one thing is I'd say I'm seeing that he would initiate the process of getting organized himself. Like, to me, it seems more realistic that he would be prompted and then he would be expected to do it. So I don't know if that's something we need to address now or later, but that's just something that's on my mind.
Can we see the goal?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So part of that is giving him the tools that he needs so that he can learn how to prompt himself.
Sure.
Right? And if you're thinking as adults, right, like I know I function off of a myriad of written checklists in various forms. So that's part of the process is figuring out what style of prompting works best for him and understanding that those tools that he is using are going to change and adapt as he grows. So things that we may find are going to be successful for him in 5th grade when we find a tool, we're going to share that with the middle school team and then understand, think of the different ways that you use tools and organizational systems to help your adult life function well and how that can change throughout time or throughout the task. We want to help put more tools in Jordan's toolbox so that he can begin to learn which tool works well in which situation. And you're right, that right now, as a beginning learner of that is going to be a lot of teacher prompts and teacher suggestions, like we're going to try this such stuff. I'm going to give this a ride for 2 or 3 weeks while we collect some data on how you're using that. Oh, that didn't work. Let's tweak this. And he is a bright, creative guy who likes to problem solve. We're going to bring him on board to help give input on what is working and what is not, and how people-based
Okay.
count. Right? And for his speech and language goal, he's going to be working with a speech therapist, given visual supports, modeling, and structured language tasks. He is going to improve his receptive and expressive language skills by processing, organizing, and expressing information. And again, we're kind of double hitting that organizational skill, right? The ability to follow multi-step directions, use complete sentences, and recall that relevant vocabulary into line of thought opportunities. And our speech therapist apologizes that she couldn't be at the meeting today. I know that she's planning to reach out to you later this afternoon to set up a time where the two of you meet directly, okay? But I know that you also had the opportunity to meet her at that results meeting yesterday, that she was looking forward to connecting with you without. So here we enter our specially designed instruction. For our reading, again, we would love to see Jordan 30 minutes a day in this special education setting so he can receive instruction using systematic, multi-sensory reading.
Oh, okay.
Okay? For his written expression, we would love to see Jordan twice a week for 30 minutes in the special education setting to practice and learn those skills. And academically, we would love to support Jordan for 20 minutes twice a week in the general education setting. So that would be me coming into his classroom, particularly at the start of the day, to help him select and refine and practice tools that are going to help set him up for success in saying questions. Related service. Once a week, 20 minutes meeting with our speech therapist in this special education setting. And this is, the speech therapist and I are going to collaborate closely because we are working on carrying over some skills that he might be learning in that speech therapy session. I want to make sure that I am generalizing, particularly when I'm pushing into that general education spot, to make sure that some of the strategies around organizing, both physically organizing and linguistically organizing, that we collaborate very closely together to make sure that those are being generalized. Yes.
I wanted to ask, so is it possible when you've all come up with a plan or had better information about those organizational skills and what works for Jordan, can you share those with the parents so they can practice that at home as carryover?
Absolutely. Yes, and so we will be doing that. You're going to email, of course.
Great.
So I'm going to email you. I'm also really love talking points. So if because I love to be able to snap a picture and show you what is working in the moment. And if you're okay, I also may occasionally do some videotaping, talking points that out to you so that you can see what we're passing on and what's working. That kind of thing. Jordan does not require transportation as a related service. And he is, however, going to be pulled out of the classrooms away from his general education peers so every day for reading, and then twice a week for written expression, as well as for his speech session.
And will those be going on at the same time that the rest of the class, the general ed class,
Yes,
are doing those same
it's
activities?
a great question.
Okay.
So we work really hard to make sure that his specially designed instruction in reading is taking place during the reading time,
Okay.
so he is not missing any area. That
Okay.
was a wonderful question.
Yeah, because our concern is, fitting in with his peers, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay.
And rest assured, there is so much movement in our general education classrooms between students that might be receiving specialized support either in the general education classroom from a teacher or getting supports from our MTSS process or students that are receiving either NL services, or if there is a lot of movement, it will not feel like use the one person. That is a great question.
That's really important. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
We
Yes,
we
please.
often have an intervention block each day where no new core instruction is happening, and all kids are either getting some kind of support or just some skills that they've already learned. And so sometimes in my classroom, kids who have reading IEPs get pulled out during reading, but sometimes they get pulled out during that intervention block, and that works really well. So.
And that may also be a time where you
First-
might be getting his speech.
I was going to say that.
Yes.
It seems like I was going to ask about the speech. That seems like a good time. Okay.
Great question. So this next session says that you are going to be getting an official progress report that I will write to you on each of his IEP goals, and it will be issued at the same time that his report card is coming home. So you can expect a report accordingly. If you have any questions at any point about his progress, know that you can always get in touch with me. And at the end of the meeting, I'll make sure that you have all of my contact information so that you know how to address it, and an open dialogue looks like this.
Great.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I just don't want you to walk away thinking that it would be, if for some reason speech doesn't happen during that intervention period. It's 20 minutes one time. And as a general education teacher, Amy and I have a responsibility to make sure that if Jordan misses 20 minutes of a social studies lesson for speech or whatever, that we have a responsibility to make sure that he gets caught up and has access to that. So I just don't want you to worry that if it works out that he does miss some things here and there, that we're just going to be like, oh well,
Okay.
like
That
that's-
he'll stay on track, basically.
Yes, that's our job, and we'll make sure that happens. And it's not just him; kids come and go all the time,
Okay.
and so that's just part of our job, is making sure that we all get what we need.
Yeah.
You know, the way
Great.
that we need.
Yeah. It's very important. Thank you.
What questions do you have so far?
No, I mean, those are really the big ones is visibility. I guess the only thing it would be visibility into like some of the speech services. Like, do we get updated the same way through the report card, or is that kind of like a separate channel for supplemental services?
Great question.
Yeah.
You will be updated on the same piece of paperwork. We'll have updates on every IEP.
Okay.
So whether it is me delivering the service, whether it is a speech therapist, whether it's an adaptive physical education teacher, occupational therapy, physical therapy, all of those progress reports on the IEP goals you will receive at the same time. And that is at least quarterly.
Great.
Now.
Just quick.
Yes.
Our parents after how did you come up with get it right? And are they gonna put some?
Sure. So how did we come up with the minutes?
The
Certain,
number.
yeah. So certain things like our reading program is designed to be delivered in 30 minutes. The program that Jordan is needing in order to be successful, that Spire reading program, is delivered in 30-minute increments. Great question. So that is how that number came up. The other service delivery minutes are based on Jordan's present level of performance, his goal, and input from the team. So the teachers who know him, the specialists who evaluated him, can all give feedback on where he is and what he might need to be successful. But yes, that is a conversation. Okay?
How would
So
the team react then? I think this we want.
that happens routinely. Yeah. And we have that conversation. Great question.
So with that, and thank you, say we take that to the greatest power, the most elevated power, and say, well, a parent says, how about we do 2.5 hours or 3 hours, right? So we're missing the goal, which is the goal for EC, and it's the same for MLs, multilingual learners, is to supplement, not supplant. So the core is supplement instruction, not supplant instruction. So that's why you will not see delivery services for an entire day in an EC classroom. There are services for that, and there are situations where that can happen. But generally speaking, these are areas and moments where in times that are supplementing the regular instruction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
And also we have to be mindful of the least restrictive environment. A student should not be removed from the least restrictive environment for the vast majority of their day if it's not appropriate.
But we can always revise the IEP. So if we started with, say, 30 minutes for written expression 2 times a week, and Jordan was like doing awesome with his goals, we might meet before the IEP expired and decide if we need to change the goals, or maybe he doesn't need 30 minutes 2 times a week pull out. Maybe now we can do push in. Or the same, if he's not making any progress on his writing goals, he's progressing slower than we expected, we would meet before the year was over, and we might decide we want to increase the time to see if we can get some more movement on those goals. So what we decide right now as a team can change based on his progress throughout the year.
And every decision is data driven. I mean, and we have data to use as evidence of any change or any update that we need to do throughout the year after a year, depending on when the student requires it.
And that is also why the IEP is considered a living document, right? Because it is, as we stated in the beginning of the meeting, like any team member at any point can say, we need to convene this IEP team, I need to talk about something. And so it is a continual conversation, right? It's a template for a conversation about helping our student access the curriculum, which is the ultimate goal, right? As a special education teacher, what we say is our ultimate goal is to put ourselves out of business. Yeah.
So I want to be mindful of time because as I'm a very important person in this community as a parent, and I've got places to go. So if we had to adjourn this IEP meeting now, would that be okay and we could pick it back up? Is that within my rights to do that?
Yes. Oh, in real, yes.
Yeah.
In real life. Yes. In real life, you can. And so this happens routinely, okay? And it can happen whether it was planned or unplanned. Like it is, like, please, you are a parent and a human first. You're all humans at this table, right? And sometimes something happens, like all of a sudden, your kid in middle school gets sick. Guess what you need to do? You need to go get that kid, okay? It happens all the time. We press pause.
Great.
Okay, great question.
So can you just explain how that works on the paperwork side of things? for
Sure.
parents, so that if something the meeting has to be paused, what happens with the paperwork?
Yeah, so what happens in terms of the IEP is the IEP just kind of freezes in time. What we're going to do in terms of the paperwork that's going on behind the scenes, remember we have someone taking meeting minutes, and we have someone else, in this case it's me right now, doing the prior written notice, which is the more official version of the minutes. What we're going to do on both the meeting minutes and the prior written notice is we're going to mark the meeting was that we got through, what were we up to? I have to go back and spot, I can sleep. So we just reviewed goals and service delivery. And so that's what we're going to document in the meeting minutes and prior written notice. Was the team was able to review all of the things through goals and service delivery, and then we needed to pause the meeting. And in an ideal world, we'll say, like, we'll meet again tomorrow, but you have to run right now. We're going to get back together. I'm going to email you some possible times to reconvene. Morning or afternoon work better for you,
Right.
and off he goes. Okay, and that happens. There are also times, like, I have to say, I'm going to throw in my parent hat. I had a really complex kid. My IEP meetings would intentionally go over a few days because there were so many specialists at the table. So sometimes that happens, and that's okay. Great question.
Yeah.
It is also okay. So IEP meetings take place the way you need them to take place. In an ideal world, we're always meeting together face to face. Like, this to me is my favorite, right? Because we really get to, like, I can see, like, you didn't understand what I just said, right? Like, there's so much nonverbal communication that happens. In my ideal, we're meeting face to face every time. Life is not ideal. right? So it is also okay for us to have held this meeting online, or sometimes to have the meeting by phone. And sometimes it's held in, like, I'm working with a family right now. I'm going to be doing a pre-meeting because there are some extraneous factors happening, right, for the family. And so I'm breaking down the IEP into a series of pre-meetings where I'm going over essentially the draft of the IEP with the parent, not with the full team, to make sure the parent understands what's happening, the suggestions, the parent has time to process, to ask questions, to give their input, so that when we come to the actual team meeting, it's going to be kind of quick because that's what the parent needs, right? So you get to say how you need to be served. And please don't hesitate to ask for what you need, okay? You have people who want to meet you where you need to. So
on that
great
note,
question.
stepping out of character, there are
Yeah.
people here who do have to go soon.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we can get through
So
as much as we
sorry.
can to get to like their questions.
So we've gone over the goals. We've gone over the services. The next part of the IEP is the accommodations. So that is what changes need to be made to the way the information is delivered to help you be successful. So Jordan needs frequent breaks, graphic organizers, chunking of assignments, teacher check-ins, read aloud, and extra time on assessments by up to 50%. And Jordan needs those accommodations in all core subject areas, and also needs those accommodations of frequent breaks and 50% extended time on both district and state tests. Okay? Moving and grooving.
Okay.
The next part of our IEP is called ESY, which is extended school year. And extended school year is designed for students who regress. So given a break from school, it takes more than twice the time to recoup where they have been. So for instance, we're going out on spring break, okay? If it takes Jordan more than 2 weeks, because we're going out for 1 week, so more than double the time to get back to where we are, then Jordan might be eligible for extended school year. If Jordan is on the cusp of developing a critical life skill, such as learning how to walk, learning how to talk, and that skill might be jeopardized, Jordan might be eligible for extended school year. For this fact, for Jordan, we don't have that data yet. So we are going to determine that we can't determine it at this time. And we will reconvene back before May. And at the same time that we're going to hold that extended school year eligibility meeting, we're also going to have a transition meeting with middle school. Okay, where you're going to have the opportunity to meet some of our middle school teachers, some of our middle school administrator. Jordan is going to which middle school?
What's that, Phillips?
Phillips. Jordan's going to Phillips. Perfect. We're going right there. So you're going to be able to ask any questions. We're going to make sure that Jordan is set up for success in middle school. Okay?
How much advance notice do parents get for extended school year requirements?
So for extended school year requirements?
Yeah. If I find out that my son needs
Okay.
to.
In real life,
Yeah.
if a child already has an IEP,
Yeah.
we're already entering those conversations.
Okay.
Because spring break is kind of like the last run where we're collecting data to see how you are towards your progress towards goals.
Okay.
So we're already in conversations about that.
So as a parent, should I expect to hear something in May? Is that kind of standard?
So
or is
we're going
does it change
to
every year?
ideally, do we have
So
Dessa?
typically what we do is we start taking or looking over and reviewing data after the winter break and seeing where things are. We can also consider it here after Thanksgiving because we had a full week away. So we're starting to look at those data to see if there's any regression points or if there's skills that are jeopardized. Those usually come closer to the end of the school year. But in those cases, you would be getting some updated information from the teachers to say, maybe we need to come back and amend the IEP. Maybe we need to have some further conversations because we're having some struggles here.
Okay, and it's a requirement that the student attend those, or is it at the
No.
parent's discretion?
No, ESY is at the parent's discretion.
Okay.
And the team does make that determination. The team can still decide that the child is eligible, but the parent can say, no, I got other plans, I'm going to Europe.
Okay.
You know, that type of thing. But it's just documented in the prior written notice that the team
was
made the
recommended.
determination and parent either chose not to or the parent agreed. And there's other documents on there. If you do decide, you have to fill out some other worksheets.
All right, so it's a suggestion, it's not an assignment, basically.
Well, everything is, right? So at the end of our initial IEP, you can accept or you can decline,
Okay.
right? So, yes, we're looking.
And ESY is not, like, it is something that's determined annually based on that annual data. So just because you may have become eligible one year does not automatically mean you're going to be eligible the next year, just because growth of skills
Gets
is
reevaluated,
different every
yeah.
year. It's reevaluated annually. Yes.
Okay. And then the final page of the IEP is the signature page where you would see someone other than Mother Test. I love Mother Test. The other thing that we didn't have a conversation about that I would love to, in terms of the timing of this first IEP and spring break, is service delivery start time. And so something that I would love to consider is starting services on the Monday we come back from spring break. Because right now we're going to otherwise start on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The end of the marking period, as you know, is Friday. I think it could be a really great natural start to have service delivery start on the Monday.
It would probably get better data too, right?
It would, and it would also give me the opportunity to meet Jordan. Jordan could come see my room and kind of like think about this space. And so if we're okay with that, I think that that would be a lovely natural transition.
Sounds great.
Great. So now we are going to go through our prior written notice. In an ideal world, you are reviewing your prior written notice at every IEP meeting before the IEP meeting is done. That's kind of the last step for the IEP. And so we met today for an initial IEP. We convened to develop an IEP for Jordan with appropriate present levels of performance, goals, services, and accommodations. Jordan was determined to be eligible for special education services under the category of specific learning disability. The team determined that Jordan requires specially designed instruction in the areas of reading, written expression, organization study, and speech language. We went over our goals. We went over our services. We went over our accommodations. We would take a few minutes to read it like. These are the assessments that we considered in developing this IEP. This question says, what did you consider or reject? We discussed extended school year and determined that there is insufficient data at this point to determine eligibility, but we determined to meet on or before May 15 to review data and discuss ESY eligibility. And we also determined to start specially designed instruction for Jordan effective April 6th, that's the Monday after spring break. This represents a natural break for students as Jordan will be returning from spring break on this schedule. And then the final question as a parent that you are asked at every meeting is there anything that you asked for today that really raised your nose to? So did you ask for anything that we said no to?
No, I think we covered everything.
Let's go to law. Did not ask for anything that you. And then, as part of this, the next thing that we're doing is you would get a copy of all those materials. You would get a copy of the meeting minutes that Mr. Jordan was taking, which is going to look something like this.
Yes.
Okay.
That's great.
And something that
Exactly.
something that I'll point out to you is that in the meeting minutes, I have linked copies of your parents' handbook in English and in Spanish. How would you like your paperwork done? Would you like email, hard copy, or both?
Email would be amazing. Yeah, thank you for printing.
You will be
Yes.
offered meetings at every meeting.
Great.
Okay, and you may decline it or you may accept it. I do have a family that at one point wallpapered a bathroom with them because they had 2 kids with IEPs and plentiful. So, yeah. So, and then again, for the initial IEP, before any services are going to start, you would need to sign a consent form for services. You signed a consent form for evaluation a few weeks ago, and that's how we were able to get this information. Nothing starts in the party unless you agree to consent for services. So we'll get your signature for that.
Great.
Fantastic.
I think that's it, right?
That's right. That's right.
Good job, team.
Thank you.